It is wonderful to see so many friends and heroes and heroines of mine here today. I'm Carrie Robinson, and it is my privilege on behalf of the Board of Directors of the National Leadership Roundtable on Church Management to welcome you to this important meeting. It is a particular delight to welcome those for whom this is the first Leadership Roundtable conference. We are honored to have you with us, and we know that your presence will ensure a very fruitful outcome. For those of you who are new to the Roundtable, you will gain an insight over the course of these 2 days of many of the defining qualities and guiding principles that inform all that we do in service to the church. The first of these is that we begin all of our deliberations in prayer, mindful that we are always in God's presence, eager to be inspired by the Holy Spirit, hopeful of grace. To lead us in prayer this afternoon, we have the extraordinary Executive Director of the Nativity Miguel Network of Schools, Mary Claire Ryan. In less than 20 years, the Nativity Miguel Network of Schools has seen explosive growth and today consists of 64 schools serving 4,500 low-income students in 27 states and here in Washington, D.C. Mary Claire.
Thank you, Carrie. This is an honor to be here and to be leading us in prayer. B.J. Casson wants me to start with a pitch, but I won't. It's right that we start with prayer, so let us pray. In the warmth of your holy presence, O God, on this first full day of summer here in our nation's capital, we are gathered, all of us, bankers, scholars, lawyers, educators, priests, CEOs, superintendents, sisters, women, and men of faith. We are gathered to offer the beauty and wisdom of different talents and different works, to offer these gifts for the great task at hand. Convened by your faithful laborers of the National Leadership Roundtable, O God, we know we are grounded together in mystery. In the mystery of your love dynamically at work in us and among us. Bless our aspirations. Bless our actions. Lead us in faith. Lead us to solutions for our task at hand. Open our hearts to know for whom we labor at this meeting. Inspire us with courage and above all the confidence to know that our work together can and will bear great fruit. Glory be to God, whose power working in us can do infinitely more than we can ask for or imagine. Amen.
Thank you, Mary Claire. The annual meeting of the Leadership Roundtable provides an occasion to accomplish two objectives. The first is to account for the activities and progress over the past year, and the second is to focus on a particular challenge facing the church in the U.S., with a view to making a positive, concrete, practical contribution toward a solution. In past years, we have addressed our core areas of expertise, all of which are always in the temporal and never doctrinal realm: management, finances, human resource development, communications. Last year, we took up the twin crises, adding unusual strain to the church: the experience of the sexual abuse crisis in Europe and elsewhere, and the global economic crisis. This year is unique in at least one respect. We were asked by bishops, our members, philanthropists, and leaders in Catholic education to take up this specific challenge at this annual conference. We were asked to address the growing threat to the sustainability of Catholic school systems and to play a role in contributing to a national response. We took this invitation very seriously and considered the ways that we might be able to make a unique contribution. As you can imagine, a network such as this of senior executive leaders is not fond of duplicative efforts, inefficient redundancies, or too exclusively academic an approach to a problem. I doubt, frankly, that we would have chosen this theme on our own, but we do listen attentively to bishops and senior diocesan leaders and to our members, and we are nothing if not responsive. As our board deliberated, we concluded that the best way we could make a meaningful contribution in this area is to play to our strong suit, our convening capability of brilliant minds from diverse perspectives, and our laser focus on action-oriented outcomes. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why you are here and why we are profoundly grateful to you for accepting our invitation to attend, to participate, to work over these next 2 days, and to be part of the solution. It is your intellectual capital, expertise and acumen, experience and insight, analytical capabilities and commitment that will, in the end, make the biggest difference to the success of this gathering. As you know from all of our pre-conference correspondence, our goal is to collectively create a blueprint set of recommendations of immediate next steps to comprehensively, boldly, effectively address the challenge of saving Catholic school systems. We convened experts in the field to help plan this gathering, and we heard from them that they often attend conferences on the subject of Catholic education. They are inspired and edified, but sometimes little in the way of action or follow-up occurs. This is clearly not a criticism of those important, in fact, seminal conferences. It is simply an observation our advisors made to us to turn this into a series of working groups attending to each of 10 core components of the challenge, and appeal to the brain power assembled to strategize on concrete recommendations. Simply described, there is so much good work at hand, so many success stories to share, so many best practices tried and tested, and so many good observations shared at important recent conferences, such as those held by Philanthropy Roundtable, Fatica, Notre Dame, Boston College, and others. Our task is to gather and harness all of the collective school assets in one deposit, so that a Catholic school's leadership czar, for example, can go to the President of the United States and say, here collectively is what the Catholic school system brings to the field of education in the US. Here is the consequence if we allow the Catholic school system to be dismantled, and here is what is needed in order for it to be sustained and to thrive. I trust you are all ready for this challenge. Now I would like to turn to our first reason for gathering, an account of the board programs and services and activities of the Roundtable over the past year. Next month, we commence our 7th year of service to the Church, championing best managerial practices, helping to solve contemporary temporal challenges facing church leaders, advocating for effective utilization of the gifts of all members of the faithful, especially the laity, and emulating the church we want to see. It has become our custom at this gathering to provide an account of how we have cared for the financial and intellectual contributions our 200 executive leaders have shared so generously in support of our mission. It is important that we are accountable to you, and in addition to updating you on the progress of our work plan, it is important that we have the chance to benefit from your candid feedback and counsel. I have 3 of my fellow trustees of the Leadership Roundtable serving on today's panel, and I will introduce each of them, and then we will begin a report of our last year's accomplishments. First, Father Monk Malloy, after serving for 18 years, is now President Emeritus of the University of Notre Dame and is a founding trustee of the Leadership Roundtable. He is a prolific author, ethicist, and theologian, and a man of tremendous generosity, a generosity that even extended to donating a kidney to his nephew in 2008 and becoming an advocate for organ transplantation. Next to Monk is Reggie Kennedy, our newest member to our board. She is an attorney and advocate, especially for issues that affect the lives of women, children, and families. She was a powerful advocate for the enactment of healthcare reform, and she co-founded the Edward M. Kennedy Institute for the United States Senate in Boston, which is being built on the campus of UMass Boston, adjacent to the John F. Kennedy Library. Jeff Boisi is our founding chair of the Leadership Roundtable, one of the world's most accomplished financial investors, former chair of the board of Boston College, lifelong member and supporter of the Catholic Church. The Roundtable would not have been born without his leadership, passion, dedication, commitment, and integrity. I am going to invite each of these trustees to share some of the highlights of our work over the past 12 months and invite you, when we open it up for comment and reaction, to provide advice on how we are accomplishing our mission to strengthen the temporal affairs of the church. And just to begin, I want to note our increased convening power and track record with both secular and church leaders. When we started 7 years ago, it was an experiment, and I would say to every bishop that I met, the onus is on us to prove over time that we are who we say we are. And that has borne great fruit in this relatively short period of time. Even here today, we have 20 dioceses represented, 8 archdioceses. There are men and women religious from all over the country. I want to draw your attention in your conference binders to the back pocket where you will see our hot off the press 2011 annual report, which gives an overview of the breadth and diversity of our programs that are in the works, some of which you will hear to. And also in that packet is a full list of services and resources available that we can provide you with more context on. We'd love to have a conversation with you about coming to your diocese, your nonprofit, and your religious community to see how we can be of greater service to you and your colleagues in your own ministry. And now I would like to turn things over to Monk Malloy.
Thank you very much, Carrie. As the pastor in me wonders about these empty chairs in the first row here, but that may be a Catholic thing, I'm not sure. This is a homecoming for me, not for reasons that you might imagine. I grew up in Washington, D.C., and during my misguided youth, I spent a lot of time walking around this neighborhood and this campus. But I was actually born in the Georgetown University Hospital. And I tried to get various presidents of the institution who I was a colleague with in the Big East Conference to put a plaque up, but so far, nothing has emerged. So I'm planting another seed. I'm delighted to give a little bit of an update. We share that, the three of us, and I'll try and do my part expeditiously. The Leadership Roundtable continues to expand its response to the leadership and management challenges facing the church. In particular, these last 12 months have seen greatly expanded demand for our services and broader implementation of our programs and resources. First of all, say something about strengthening the organization. The strategic plan calls for us to expand our resources and strengthen our governance so that we can respond to unprecedented demand for programs and services. I am honored to be co-chair of the Development Committee, along with Chuck Geske, and we are also grateful to Betty Bliss and Father Don Monin, who are also helping us in our work. In addition to development, we are organizing a governance committee and expanding the finance committee to allow for continued development of the organization. We are quite grateful to our board and council members, our donors, and our friends for their continued support. I'd like to say something about the standards for excellence. This program remains our foundational initiative for dioceses, parishes, religious communities, nonprofits, Catholic charities, colleges and universities, and schools. To date, we have a total of 361 partners in excellence throughout the country at various stages of implementation of the standards and plan to sign on 5 new dioceses by the end of the year. Over 11,000 plus copies of the Standards for Excellence codes have been distributed. Within the last quarter, we have added 5 new partners in excellence, 2 of which are DePaul University, the largest Catholic university by population in the country, and Xavier University of Louisiana. We continue to work with 3 religious communities, including the Paulist Fathers. In the Archdiocese of St. Paul in Minneapolis, the parish business managers have introduced the Standards for Excellence, and in the fall will host a series of meetings with pastors, pastoral staff, finance, and pastoral council members to try to implement the standards in 130 parishes across the Archdiocese. We have also initiated exciting partnerships to develop online assessment and reporting tools, a webinar series, training courses, and other opportunities. Our 360 plus partners in excellence are already downloading free education resource packets, which provide templates and tools and sample policies and other resources to support best practices in all areas of parishes and organization management. The Standards for Excellence have also been featured in a Fordham University course on entrepreneurialism. Try to say that one. Entrepreneurialism in the Catholic Church, and the Church Management course at Villanova University. Our partners at the Standards for Excellence Institute have also conferred the Seal of Excellence on 2 diocesan charities, indicating full compliance with the standards benchmarks, with some of our other partners in excellence now also pursuing that designation, which I might add is not easily granted. We are particularly grateful to a Catholic foundation that wishes to remain anonymous, and to our many generous individual donors who have provided funding for the Standards program during this past year. I'd like to say something now briefly about ESTEEM, which stands for Educating Students to Enliven the Ecclesial Mission. ESTEEM is a nationwide program to develop leadership skills of young Catholics, something that all of us, and I, working in a higher education institution, are very alert to. Applying a multifaceted approach, ESTEEM provides college students with the inspiration and tools for deeper engagement in the life and witness of the Church. An initiative of the National Roundtable and St. Thomas More Catholic Chapel and Center at Yale, ESTEEM focuses on the core competencies of spirituality, education, community, and service. Completed its highly successful pilot year on 6 campuses: Yale, Sacred Heart, Ohio State, Michigan State, Stanford, and UCLA. A wrap-up capstone conference took place from April 1st to the 3rd at St. Thomas More Catholic Center at Yale, which also included students and campus ministers from the pilot sites, and valuable feedback to strengthen the program was obtained from that meeting. ESTEEM enjoyed national publicity in a featured article in the New York Times. This coming year anticipates all 6 pilot sites continuing with the program and the addition of 6 new sites. And now I'd like to show some video clips from the young students who experienced this unique leadership and mentoring program.
The Catholic Church in the United States has an abundance of talent in reserve that yearns to be of service, and the National Leadership Roundtable on Church Management works to empower young adults to be leaders today. With St. Thomas More, the Catholic Chapel and Center at Yale University, the Leadership Roundtable offers a leadership development and faith formation program called ESTEEM, engaging students to enliven the ecclesial mission. Students participate in workshops, service opportunities, faith formation, and leadership training, all with one goal: serving in leadership roles in the church following graduation. At a national conference in New Haven, students offered their thoughts.
Now we're talking more about accountability, and how we go out into a parish, wherever we're going next, and how we're going to use our skills to contribute to the new place that we're going.
I've really enjoyed my experience in ESTEEM this year, mainly because it's given me a chance to access the life experiences of Catholics who've been in the church much, much longer than I have, and to sort of take stock of the mismatch between perhaps my expectations and abstract values and the way the life of the Catholic Church plays out in the parishes, on the street, every day in the real world. And I'm looking forward to talking to more people about that.
Sort of gives this, intellectual background into different aspects of the church. So, like, the organizational structure, the spirituality, and what it means to be Catholic leaders and different reflections on that. So I really appreciate that kind of intellectual material and being able to reflect on that.
My favorite part of the program has been the fact that it's really started us asking questions, questions that we wouldn't have asked otherwise had we not been put into a setting in which we were asked, what do you want to do in the church once you leave? And I think it's been very important, at least for me, to start thinking about what my role is going to be in the church once I graduate and I'm not in a university chapel anymore.
We've learned a lot about how to bring all that we've learned over the past 4 years, all the service we've done, all of the teachings we've learned, and everything about the community that we founded in our Catholic faith at our university, and how to bring it to our parishes at home, or how to find a parish at home.
I also had mentors as part of the ESTEEM program, and that was probably one of my favorite parts, is having a direct connection with someone, an older person in the community who maybe has a job similar to what our major is, and is still involved very actively in the parish or in the church, and has even a leadership role, and really getting to connect with them and see how their life, their faith has to do with their profession and the rest of their life.
I came into Sacred Heart my freshman year, really involved in campus ministry, and it was great just coming full circle and just ending my time here at Sacred Heart full circle. And I really learned just a lot more about myself and a lot more about my faith.
We used to say when we were doing fundraising for scholarships, let the students speak. So we did here. I'd like to turn it out to Vicki to talk about our leadership development activities.
Thanks so much. It is such a pleasure to be here with our great executive director, Carrie Robinson. What a fantastic job she does, and to thanks for starting that clap. And with the legendary Monk Malloy, you're something else, Father. Even if you do have that Notre Dame thing, and I'm a Boston College gal, seriously, you're just magnificent, and I'm honored to be on the same dais as you. But Jeff Boisi, who really founded the Roundtable, and what you've done in terms of church management and leadership is just extraordinary. And I've been on this board now a year and a half, and it has been a magnificent experience for me, and I think for everybody else on the board. And I just thank you for this great idea, and thank all of you for being here. I'm really excited about what we're doing, and I'm excited about the progress that we've made in the last year, and especially about an initiative that has happened in the Archdiocese of Boston. Catholic Leadership 360 is a unique leadership development process designed for ordained and lay leaders in the Catholic Church. After completing Catholic Leadership 360 with priest and lay leaders in the dioceses of Pittsburgh and Metuchen, we saw significant expansion this year in Boston. Cardinal O'Malley invited the Leadership Roundtable and our partners in Catholic Leadership 360 to work with a cohort of young priests who had been ordained for between 3 and 6 years. You all know that priests are being put into leadership positions earlier and earlier now, and leadership training is more important than ever. So the Cardinal and his Vicar for Clergy, Father Michael Medis, recognized the need for a quality leadership development program, one that assessed the leadership competencies and skills of priests and lay leaders, and that provides a personal development program for each participant. 15 priests completed their 360 survey with 231 raters, superior, supervisor, peers, direct reports, and others all participated in rating the priests. These priests attended a feedback workshop to receive their personal report and then to prepare for one-on-one sessions with a trained facilitator. The facilitators were pastors, formation directors, a deacon, a layman, a laywoman, and they assisted the participants to interpret their 360 review and identify strengths and development needs. The final phase of the program saw each participant guided to create a personal development plan and to identify ongoing formation approaches and opportunities. In April, we met with Cardinal O'Malley, the regional bishops, and senior leaders in the Archdiocese of Boston. The bishops and formation directors were presented with a group profile of the priests to assist with alignment of future formation opportunities. The Cardinal was grateful for the impact of the program, and we're now in discussions with the Archdiocese about expanding to a new group of laity and priests. That expansion continues across the country as dioceses and institutions show interest in this leadership development program, including Region 11 councils of priests, which include the 14 dioceses of California, Nevada, and Hawaii. So we're very, very excited about that development. We've also made great strides in communications. We've had major accomplishments. We've been featured in the New York Times. The National Catholic Reporter carried a full-page interview on our standards for excellence. America Magazine reported on our Toolbox for Pastoral Management. We've greatly expanded our communications with members, bishops, diocesan leaders, and our electronic and printed mailing list. Our social media platforms are updated several times each week, and our e-newsletter is monthly. Our annual report and appeals are distributed nationally. We've paid special attention to our logos and promotional materials for all of our projects, including Standards for Excellence, Catholic Leadership 360, and ESTEEM, to ensure that individual resources are promoted as part of the Leadership Roundtable's menu of products. Our board members and council members, staff, and subject matter experts continue to be in great demand for national keynote addresses and workshops, diocesan convocations, and other groups interested in church management. To give one example, Carrie Robinson, the great Carrie Robinson, was invited to the Diocese of Allentown to address Bishop Barras and a full diocesan staff on the mission, guiding principles, and resources of the Leadership Roundtable. The meeting was followed by a keynote to the Catholic Business Owners Alliance of the Diocese for a full overview of the Roundtable's activities and a challenge to members, to those businessmen and women, to lend their own intellectual capital and managerial expertise to the church and the diocese. Fantastic. And the last thing I want to talk about is a very exciting development in pastoral leadership and development. In the last few years, you've heard about two roundtable initiatives, the Toolbox for Parish Management and CatholicPastor.org. We are delighted to announce generous funding from the Lilly Endowment, which brings together these two projects under the umbrella of pastoral leadership development. We've appointed coordinators for each of the projects and are strengthening the connection between the two components. Our July 2010 Toolbox for New Pastors was a great success, and our summer 2011 Toolbox for Pastoral Management is fully subscribed with a waiting list. A second Toolbox site is being considered in response to requests for a second location from multiple dioceses. I also have video, Father. To demonstrate the importance and impact of this training, we'd now like to show you a video clip from some of the new pastors who participated in the 2010 Toolbox for Pastoral Management.
My name is Father Brian Sullivan.
Father Matthew Buny.
Senior Robert O'Coin. Father Liam O'Doherty.
My name is Father Charlie Cicerel.
Father Ivan Chivaras. Well, these are things that definitely we didn't learn in the seminary.
It can be just sort of mind-boggling, the number of matters that the pastor has to make decisions about.
Well, I've never been a pastor before, so being an administrator is new to me.
We just asked the diocese for a large loan because of damage to 3 roofs during the storm last January.
One of the biggest difficulties is the kind of human resources, managing staff.
During the course of a year, I think even during the course of a day, a pastor is called upon to make lots of decisions. Even those decisions he doesn't want to have to make, he has to make them because he's ultimately the man in charge.
Money management.
Of the need to communicate.
Where we need the money, how to allocate it.
Having strong and sound policies.
Unity and diversity.
Be a good steward.
Financial management.
Getting us together on the same page.
Pastors sometimes might say, well, we have the gospel, that's our strategic plan. It is, but it needs to have flesh on it. So in order to accomplish those great ideals of the gospel, we need to have a very concrete plan. So like it or not, having to do with finances and personnel and buildings and plumbing and roofs and stuff like that. All these things are necessary, really, in order for us to have the kind of community that is nurturing for all of the members and can be a place and a community where Christ is proclaimed.
The policies and the sound and best practices are done in a pastoral and kind way that, of course, is in the mission of the church and the gospel.
Always there's an opportunity, even in the midst of all the administrative financial management work of the parish, there's always opportunities to preach the gospel and to make Christ present in the world, in the lives of the people that we touch.
And now it is a privilege for me to hand it over to the man who put the flesh on those on the strategic plan that Father in that video was talking about, Jeff Boisi.
Thank you, Vicki. Thank you very much. And thank you all for being here. I can't tell you how gratifying and inspiring it is to those of us who have been here from the beginning to have you all with us and given the backgrounds and experiences and competence that you bring to the discussion that we are going to have over the next day and a half. We really appreciate it. I don't have a video. I'm tempted to say our strategic plan is our gospel, but we've talked a little bit about what we've done this past year, and I wanted to spend a little time on some of the things that are coming up and that we should be collectively looking forward to over the course of the next year. I think Kerry mentioned that we are in our 7th year of existence. For those of us who were here when it was just sort of an idea on a yellow pad, to see the evolution of the organization over this 7 years in terms of the services, products, acceptance that we've had, the requests that we've had, the involvement of senior level people from all walks of life to assist the church has been just an absolutely unbelievable experience for those of us. And those things could never have been done without you. And we can't thank you enough. Without our board, who has been phenomenal board, some of the people that you're seeing here, and hopefully as you spend the next 24 plus hours with us, you will get to meet many of our other board members. And the council members from all around the country, committed Catholics all, who are offering their talent, skills, and expertise to helping solve the problems and take advantage of opportunities and learning from them to advance the mission of the church in the United States. Being the 7th year, we're in our 3rd cycle of our 3-year planning cycle, and thankfully we've had our own 3-star general, General Jim Dubik, who has led us through that process since the beginning. And when you have a military and a business-like approach to something, I think that's an important reason why we've been able to accomplish as much as we have over the past few years. This year, the 4 goals that we're focused on, the first is a governance issue. We want to make sure that as we promulgate the standards of excellence throughout the system, we ourselves are adhering to those things. And so one of the first things that we wanted to do is to make sure that the way we've established ourselves, the checks and balances, and that we as an organization are doing all of those things. And frankly, given the number of requests that we are getting from around the country, around the world, to be honest with you, many countries have learned what we have been up to here and are now asking for our assistance, guidance, and support. We want to make sure that we're doing that in an absolute pristine, first-class way, and therefore the standards of excellence, we think that if adhering to those, we can do a better job for everybody, and so we're very focused on that. Our second and third goals are around engaging more senior level executives throughout the system. We're being very tactical and strategic about the types of capabilities that we're looking for in order to support the needs and the questions and the issues that have been brought to our attention across the church, and we want to make sure that we have the right talent available to support the problems and the solving of those problems across the country. In addition to that, we want to make sure that we grow as an organization according to the mission of the organization, as Carrie described, and therefore setting out metrics to make sure that this is a growth business and a growth organization. And we've set challenging goals for ourselves, and we are looking forward to accomplish that. In order to achieve that, we've restructured ourselves a little bit differently. Today at the board meeting, we approved our latest senior hire, Jim Lindholm-Eves, who many of you know from Minnesota, has been involved with us from the beginning, and he's joining us formally within the next month to be the head of our Director of Strategic Engagement, and he and Michael Bruff, who many of you know, will be working cheek to jowl in terms of going out to not only the dioceses and nonprofits, Catholic nonprofits around the country to listen to what the issues are that we could be helpful on, but Jim in particular is going to be helping us from an operating standpoint to actualize the execution of the initiatives that you are asking us to get involved with. We're going to be doing a lot more in terms of communication over the next year. Hopefully you have availed yourselves of our website, which personally I think is a first-class thing. Churchopedia, which has been an important development over the last couple of years, will be expanded, invested in, and hopefully used to the benefit of the church. And I think that some of the conversation that we'll have over the next 24 hours, some of those ideas that we have applied to the other temporal issues of the church can be equally well applied to the school development. So you'll be seeing more of that from us. As you know, we're committed to be a national organization. We recognize the differences of culture and attitude that and approaches to problem solving that have arisen, best practices primarily in the different parts of the country, and we want to make sure that we are represented in each part of the country. And so part of the new strategic plan is to regionalize our gatherings, broaden the invitation list, secure greater participation, use, and endorsement from church leaders, to engage board and council members and expand the local Catholic executives from different parts of the country. Our gathering in California on October 4th is the first step in achieving that goal, or one of our goals for the year. We invite you to come and invite others to come. And if you would like to have a future roundtable meeting or organizational activity, particularly in your city, please come see me or Carrie or one of the officers of the organization. We'd be delighted to talk to you about how we would plan on doing that. Another important activity is, I think some of you have heard us from the past, that when the financial crisis hit, Cardinal George and the USCCB asked us to put on several symposiums, actually, on the causes and suggestions that we had in dealing with the financial crisis. One of the suggestions that we had was developing a Catholic investment initiative. We spent a lot of time, energy, money, intellectual capital in putting a Catholic-oriented SRI investment capability together. We have now tested it with about 25 different institutions. We're getting very, very positive response to it. And for those of you who aren't familiar with it, it's the notion of consolidating capital by Catholic organizations that have smaller amounts of money, so that we can pool that capital in order to attract the best money management and advice to get the kinds of returns that the Harvards and the Yales and the Notre Dames and the Boston Colleges and the great institutions of the country have been able to achieve, so that at the parish level, at the local smaller Catholic nonprofit level, all the way to the mid-size institutions will have the opportunity to get that kind of quality investment option at a very discounted cost, because we will treat those pools of capital as one Catholic investor, and therefore be able to get a lower cost to be able to accomplish that. Another thing that has occurred, it's sometimes difficult to measure the impact that the Roundtable has on the institutional church as we attempt to enhance, what I think we all would admit is a deeply ingrained culture. Recently we received an invitation to co-sponsor the inaugural Mid-Atlantic Congress for Pastoral Leadership. It's an East Coast version of the LA Congress, those of you who might be familiar with that, offering Catholic pastoral practices, religious education, and opportunities for skills development. The partner sponsors include the Archdiocese of Baltimore and the Association of Catholic Publishers. And we have been invited to play a sponsorship role there. And they've told us it's for basically 4 reasons, which actually we find gratifying. And the first is that our ability to reach a wide church audience. Secondly, our ability to provide content in best temporal practices. And third, our network's access to prominent speakers. And we're very pleased and honored to be considered for this. Discussions have already taken place with the organizers of the Congress for the Leadership Roundtable to run workshops on the standards of excellence, on the Church Leadership 360, and a few thousand participants are expected, and the Congress will take place March 8th through 10th, 2012 in Baltimore, and thereafter be an annual event. So we're honored to be part of the inauguration of that. Last year, the theme of our annual roundtable meeting was how to respond to the twin crises of sexual abuse and the financial issues and potential financial problems within the church, with collaborative and practical solutions. Since then, unfortunately, we have seen the situations in the Archdiocese of Philadelphia and the Diocese of Kansas City, St. Joseph, and the publication of a new book by Jason Berry, Render Unto Rome, The Secret Life of Money in the Catholic Church. And so, therefore, we know that we have much more work to do. But just within the last 2 weeks, we have witnessed the impact of the Roundtable's call for accountability and to utilize the expertise of the laity to assist the church. And the first is our board member, Susan King, who is an executive officer of the Carnegie Foundation. an expert in communications, has been appointed to the U.S. Conference of Bishops National Review Board, and I think she just attended her first meeting, and it's an honor for her, but it's an honor for us for her to be a representative on that committee. Additionally, we also have learned that in February a symposium will be held in Rome to help the bishops around the world as they seek to comply with the recent Vatican mandate to set up guidelines for handling accusations of clerical sex abuse. The gathering is being organized by the Gregorian Pontifical University, and a number of Vatican offices as well will be sponsors, and will assist representatives of the world's Catholic bishops' conferences and major superiors of religious orders. Our own Kathleen McChesney, who was one of the original members of that National Review Board, actually proposed this idea for a central clearinghouse of best practices that is multilingual and multicultural, and which will also be developed as part of this initiative. So we acknowledge Kathleen's leadership in that area, and we thank her. You know, each year we ask for your strategic input in response to this annual report. Last year we heard from the bishops and senior diocesan leaders the urgent need to focus on sustainable models for Catholic schools. To be honest with you, we wrestled with that question in terms of whether or not we could contribute in that area, because many of you who are here have been laboring as leaders in this field for a long period of time. And I have to say, the more that I've delved into it personally as it relates to the parochial school system over the last year or two, I've been impressed with the insight and creativity of many of you in the room in terms of what you've brought to that issue. And so as the board tussled with the notion is what is it that we could bring to it, and we went around and talked to many of you, as Kerry mentioned, what we were hearing was that is there a way to really develop an action plan that systemically could gain the attention of not only the bishops but leadership organizations throughout our Catholic system in terms of really helping moving the dial in that area. And I would just take a sort of a point of privilege to mention, this past weekend, I went to my 50th reunion from my grammar school, which was St. Bridget's in Westbury, New York. And it really gave me the opportunity to reflect on the meaning and the value of the parochial schools and the importance of parochial schools in the United States. Because I sat with, I was in a group of 50 when I graduated, and believe it or not, 25 of those people, after 7 of them have passed away, but 25 of them came, and they're doctors and lawyers and teachers and cops and nuns and small business owners and people who have led Fortune 100 companies, and it was a tremendous group of people who have been terrific Catholics, parents. They've parented some incredible children that I learned about over the course of the weekend, and it just reminded me that these people learn their fundamentals, not only reading, writing, and arithmetic there, but the notion of discipline and hard work and responsibility, and the notion of faith and what competition was all about, and excellence, and defining goals personally and goals for their lives. And this was all done in a cocoon of faith and friendship and learning and caring and looking out for each other's back and growing up. And some of these people I hadn't seen in 50 years. The guy who's organizing it happens to be a close friend of mine who I actually still talk to 3 times a week, believe it or not. And he's one of these incredible people who can tell you the life story of every single person he's ever gone to school with. And he brought us all together. And so it was a very enriching thing for me. But it focused my attention on what I hope happens over the course of the next 24 hours. And I have to say, last night in preparing, for tonight, before I went to bed, I watched the Charlie Rose show, and I don't know if any of you saw that, but David Brooks was on it, and Tom Friedman, and a couple of other leading thought leaders like that. And they were talking about the state of the world. And they were saying that they described themselves in a way that it reflected, positively to me. They were sort of frustrated optimists, but that, we in this country are going through a very difficult time. That probably for the next 10 years we're going to go through a period of austerity in order to get our house in order. And that house is not only the debt problems that we're having, but they pointed out a number of areas, but the one that they focused the most on was education. And the thing that struck me is when you think about both America and you think about the Catholic Church, the education system and the way that we as a church approached education, particularly in the last 100 to 120 years, was a driver for the success of the United States and the success of the Catholic Church. And, when I reflected on what has happened in my own grammar school, which is now not one parish and one school, but it's a regional school made up of maybe 15 parishes in order to get to roughly close to the same number of people that were there when I was there. And the demographics obviously are quite different. It was a middle-class group of Irish, Italian, Polish, German immigrants who, when I was there, and now it's Afro-American and Latino and still some smattering of Europeans, but the demographics have changed so dramatically, but the fundamentals are still there. And I hope that, as we go through the next 2 days, we focus on a couple of things. One, when you look back as to why we were successful over an exceptional country and an exceptional church, as it relates to education, it was because we had a commitment. And back then, the bishops back in 1884 or whatever year it was, decided that the educational system, the parochial school system, was a high priority for the Catholic Church, and there was a commitment to it. So that was the first thing. The second thing, there was leadership. Because of that commitment, leaders came out and focused their creativity and intensity on developing that and making sure that, I'm pleased to be associated with you all because I view you as the leaders of that community. And I think we're going to hear a lot of interesting thoughts, over the next 24 hours. The final thing is sort of the fundamentals of how we deal with problems. And the heart of it, and this is something that Brooks and Friedman and Charlie Rose and the other guys were making last night, which really rung a bell with me, was the reason why we were able to succeed is because we cooperated. And that cooperation was based on facing the issue thoughtfully, being brutally honest with each other what the issues were, put all the options on the table, be the creative ideas as well as the tried and true ideas, making sure that we analyze each of those ideas and the consequences, unintended and otherwise, using common sense and being practical and working the problem in a way where we discuss it, there's give and take. Being ideological doesn't necessarily have to mean that we're rigid or stubborn or exclusionary. We can have principled compromise and principled creativity, and that's the way our country got to be the greatest country in the world, and I think that's the way that certainly the education system and many aspects of what we did in the church over the years has made us successful. And I hope that we can bring those same characteristics to the conversation that we have over the next 24 hours. Because I think if we do, I think we can bring a quality of work product to help our leadership, take our educational system to a different level. So thank you so much for your participation with us over the next couple of days. Hopefully you're as proud as we are of the progress that we're making. I can guarantee you that we're working very hard at it. We're spending a lot of time, energy, and money in trying to be responsive to the things that we're hearing from the church. and we'll keep at it until you stop talking to us. Thank you.
So at this point, we want to open it up for any comments, reactions to anything that you have heard. The floor is yours. I know this is not a shy group. Yes.
I have a question regarding the ESTEEM program, which is a wonderful program, and I really think it's very valuable. Is there a component part working with dioceses to say where are these people going to go once we're going to have this, God willing, army of willing church leaders, men and women, who are going to want positions of where their skills will be used?
It's an excellent question. The Catholic chaplain from Yale is here, Father Bob Boulogne. If the question gets too hard, I'm going to turn it to him. That is a core component to the planning process, because obviously the worst thing that could happen is that we equip these talented young adults who love the church, who want to serve in leadership capacities, and we send them out and nobody wants to take them onto their diocesan finance councils or pastoral parish councils or boards of trustees. So we are developing relationships, key relationships with those diocesan entities and parishes that are eager for this talent. We want it to be a fruitful and rewarding experience for these talented young adults.
Hi, Bill McCursey from the Archdiocese of Boston. New to this group, new to all the things presented. Wonderful set of tools here. And maybe over the next 24 hours, this question will be answered, which is, for all of these management tools, leadership development tools, how central are the question of schools and education to that? I think that would be, you've got a great set of things. I'm immediately thinking of how these could be applied to principals, to boards, advisory boards, all the rest in the school setting. Maybe that's happening a lot, I'm not sure. But that will be helpful to find out.
I'll take that. I mean, one of the reasons why we decided to focus in on the schools is because we recognize that from a temporal standpoint, what's happening, particularly in the parishes and the dioceses and the financial issues facing them, were so integrated with the other issues that we dealt with that we thought, we can make a contribution. And the more that we thought about it, a lot of the tools and a lot of the things that we've been developing, and I probably should add for those of you who are new to the group, when we first started out 7 years ago, it's almost 8 years ago actually for some of us, we met with the executive committee of the bishops, and we had a group of 70-plus leaders from all walks of life, and we had a very hard-nosed conversation over a 2-day period of time, and we developed the original literally 47 recommendations that we came up with. And so our strategic plan that I mentioned since then has just been sort of ticking off, executing in as a high-quality way as we could those particular points. We think a lot of those could be applied to the schools. They'd have to be tweaked and whatnot, and we think that some aspect of, or maybe even a sub-organization or a sub-unit of what we've been doing here to be applied specifically to the schools may be one of the suggestions or ideas that come out of the conversation over the next 24 hours. But we think our intuition is, and our expectation is, there are a number of those things that would be applicable.
Dick Abdu from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I'm very excited about what you're doing in the educational realm with the leadership forum, but I am a little concerned that if you go back to my generation of Catholic schools, all of our urban centers, Detroit, Chicago, Philadelphia, St. Louis, New York, Boston, a majority of the students who graduated from high school in those cities came out of Catholic high schools. And so I look at the way this has been configured and wonder if we're taking too narrow a view, because if urban education in the United States of America doesn't improve significantly, I don't believe that the Catholic schools, no matter what we do, can be a beacon of light in this mass of disarray. And so I hope over the next day and a half we can at least have some of the bright minds around here focus on, should our focus be urban excellence in education, and focus on the role that the Catholic schools can play in that greater urban setting. And I think if we do that, and one of the things that one of the speakers mentioned about all the bright minds and the university presidents and emeritus presidents, what about the politicians? Because if we do focus on urban education, and our goal is to create an excellent urban educational system where we play a big role as Catholics, it's going to take some will on the part of our local and federal officials, and that's a very treacherous landscape at the moment. So anyway, I hope.
Well, we would not in any way disagree, and as a matter of fact, one of the reasons we did this is not only were we hearing from the Catholic community, but at least the Obama administration approached us, I guess a year and a half ago, Frank Butler, I don't remember, a year and a half, almost, it could be almost 2 years ago, because they obviously have recognized the importance of the faith-based community and the deterioration, and I think they figured out that the pressure that's going to be put on the public school system if the continued deterioration in the urban schools takes place, and they were reaching out to us as a group of, as an organization that could help maybe mobilize the leaders, and they've been encouraging to us. Now, we've been challenging them in terms of, okay, you know, you say you'll be helpful and give us some assistance and all that kind of thing, and from a moral support standpoint, but more than moral support is required. And actually, it was unfortunate because we thought we were going to have Arnie Duncan or Jim Shelton here with us today, but for what I would call very legitimate reasons, they weren't available to us today. But that is, I think, an important part of the discussion that takes place. What is it that we need? And our approach to solving problems since we've started is to identify things like that. If it's crucial and a high priority, okay, what has to be said? What is it? Who are the right people to do it? So it's not just an airy-fairy sort of goal. It's what is the action plan? Who's responsible? Who are the right people to be in the room in order to further that goal? And that's the approach that we would like to take in terms of thinking through these. And so we think that that's going to be an important element in the discussion. We would hope it would be.
Yep. Bill Byron from Philadelphia. We're looking for new ideas. And I know Cristo Rey is on the agenda. And as I understand it, I don't know historically, but I've been told that John Foley, the founder of Cristo Rey, sat down with a business consultant, you know, perhaps retired somebody like you, and said, how can we make this thing work? And they came up with the idea of the cooperative education, and as we all know, and we'll hear more about it, the boy or girl goes to school 4 days a week and then works on that 5th day, and the employer who is employing 5 of these youngsters pays $5,000 a year for each of those kids to the school. That's got a revenue-producing mechanism in it, and we just have to find more ideas like that.
We're hoping, I don't know if BJ is here, BJ Casson, who was that person I think you just referred to, and you know, he was the brains behind that concept, and I think you'll hear more and more about that. And there are other, the thing that I find gratifying is, and literally just people have started to send me, you know, work papers that they were doing in preparation for today with a lot of the creative ideas. There are a lot of great ideas out there. there really are a lot of great ideas out there. But it's one thing to have a great idea, but we don't have a system, to the question back, we don't have a system where we can share those ideas with each other. And that's why when I talk about Churchopedia or the way that we've developed our website and whatnot, something like that for the school system or the school issue, would be a helpful thing, so that, what's working well in California or Milwaukee or whatever can get shared as people start to think through these issues. And so some of those sort of catalytic converters of smart ideas can get, disseminated in a lot of different ways. And I think that that's hopefully some of the kinds of things that will bubble up in the conversations.
Any last comment or question before we take a short break?
Can I just ask the group just one? And I recognize that because we focused on the school issue, a lot of you are new to it and focused on the school. But this particular meeting is very helpful to us in terms of thinking about issues that are additionally important. I mean, given schools are important, so we're going to focus on that. If there are other issues that you think are critical to the success of the church in the temporal areas, that you think that we could, that you're experiencing either difficulty with, or as you talk to your finance councils or others that you think that we should highlight, we would love to hear about those either now or over the course of the next day and a half.